Now, a Melbourne judge has come under fire for kicking a woman out of his courtroom for breastfeeding her baby. As the mother breastfed while covered with a blanket, the County Court Judge Mark Gamble said, and I quote, "Madam, you will not be permitted to breastfeed a baby in court. I'm sorry, I will have to ask you to leave. It will be a distraction for the jury at the very least." Now, joining me now is Herald Sun columnist Susie O'Brien, who's written about this issue. Susie, this poor mother ran out in tears.
Oh, I feel so sorry for her. She was sitting at the back of the courtroom, minding her own business, feeding her baby like most women do, sort of shrouded under a blanket. And she'd already checked the signs, made sure this wasn't illegal. She was allowed to be there. And, you know, it just seems extraordinary in this day and age that you can't wear a pair of sunglasses on the top of your head in court, but apparently you're not allowed to have a baby and breastfeed it. So it's extraordinary.
It completely is. I mean, under the Federal Discrimination Act, the Federal Sex Discrimination Act, breastfeeding is protected. A mother has the right to breastfeed her baby wherever she is. Surely this has to extend to courtrooms if it doesn't already. I mean, you'd think it would.
Yeah. Well, you would think absolutely. And, you know, being in court, especially with courts being an open and essential part of our judicial system, access and transparency, it is just mind-blowing that 20 years after one of our Victorian MPs, Kirsty Marshall, who people might know as an Olympic skier, the same thing happened to her. She was sitting, she was a new MP, she got caught short, 11-day-old baby, and she got asked to leave the floor of Parliament, and the judge ruled, or the Speaker said, you know, you will remove the stranger from the floor of Parliament, her 11-day-old baby.
Wow.
And, you know, it's very upsetting for a lot of us to see this same thing happen 20 years later.
Oh, it's devastating. And for that mother who was in the courtroom in any case, you know, even getting a little baby into a courtroom is very stressful. You know, the judge isn't even thinking about the crying in the car, the logistics, the nappies, the everything, and then to force her to leave because she was breastfeeding and covering up with a blanket. I mean, I think women should be able to breastfeed without having to cover up with a blanket, because especially in the heat of summer, it's too uncomfortable and suffocating for a little baby in any case to have a blanket over them.
Yeah, you end up being in a sort of tent-like scenario where the blanket's there, then you're peeking under the blanket might as well be over your head as well. Like, I've spent years trying to do it. And I think we need to give women a bit more credit for making good decisions, for being able to feed or not feed as they see fit. Because this isn't about, you know, women putting their boobs on display. This is about the basic act of feeding a baby. And the alternative, if we say women can't be in public places while they are breastfeeding, we are saying they deserve to be at home. They should be at home. And that's a very, very long year at home.
100%. And this is literally keeping a child alive, keeping a baby alive. And if that judge thinks the jury are going to be distracted, well, I don't think he's giving enough credit for men, because this is what breasts are for. They are literally for feeding babies. Now, this has actually been a very big story in Melbourne. It was front page of your newspaper, the Herald Sun. What has been the reaction from the majority of the Herald Sun readers?
I think people are genuinely saddened to think we are still at this point. And the judge himself was questioned about this the following day, and I think people thought, oh, front page of the Herald Sun, he might be backing down. But he actually doubled down and said, it's self-explanatory. I'm not changing my view. And it was really very upsetting, to think someone like that. No. It was very, very upsetting to think that this person is making judgments and is ruling on other people's lives, and he clearly doesn't get something as basic as the need for a baby to be fed in public in a discreet way at the back of a courtroom.
Well, I think that should disqualify him from being a judge, genuinely. If you don't think a baby should be able to feed, and it would, I mean, babies, if they're not allowed to feed, you know, they can't live, they would die. And if a baby's even made to wait a few minutes for a mother to go find a more appropriate place where no one else is, they scream their heads off. That judge shouldn't be in his position. He just shouldn't. As you say, how can he pass judgments on a range of other things if his judgment is so is screwed on this particular issue?
Yeah, and we know that, as you said before, that breastfeeding is a protected attribute under the Sex Discrimination Act. Like, his act in saying that I am ejecting you from this public place on that basis is actually illegal. So what's he doing? Presiding over a courtroom?
No, absolutely. Time for him to go. Susie O'Brien, thank you very much for your thoughts on this.